I suppose the first thing to say at an occasion such as this is welcome. So welcome, Mr. Tobin, Mrs. Walker, administrators, teachers, friends, family, alumni, random tourists that may be walking along the rim right now. Welcome to our 2006 Grand Canyon High School graduation ceremony. I'd also like to thank each of you for helping us to celebrate our accomplishments by being here today. Another common practice that I've noticed among speakers is that they tell a story about how they were getting ready to write their speech, having no idea what they were going to say, when all of a sudden they have an epiphany, and their fingers just begin to fly across the keyboard to create an eloquent procession of words that is much more than just poetic garble that no one understands, but actually touches people. It wasn't long ago that I heard a speech like this, and while listening to it, how they came to create their speech, I decided that that was the method I was going to use to write mine. So I sat down one afternoon, not knowing how my speech would end up, turned on the computer, loaded Microsoft Word, and waited. I figured I was well on my way. All I had to do now was have an epiphany, right? Easy enough. Strangely enough, after about 2 hours of staring at a blank Word document, I had no epiphany. So, feeling fairly flustered, I decided to search for inspiration in the only logical place one would search for inspiration, the internet. It wasn't long before I came upon a truly horrifying photograph. This Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph depicted a young child, not more than 3 years old, crawling across the desert towards the nearest source of fresh water, nearly a mile away. This clearly malnourished child looked as though he would have fit in perfectly with the bodies of Holocaust victims. It looked like someone had taken a tiny skeleton and vacuum sealed it in skin, the way each bone protruded without an ounce of flesh to cover it. It was devastating to me to see this emaciated body struggling to lift the head, which seemed much too large for its minuscule frame. Although the entire picture was quite disturbing, the thing that dropped my heart more than anything else was the vulture standing behind the child. This bird was nearly twice the size of the child and was lying in wait, for even it knew what was sure to come. I do not know what became of this child lying in the dust, but I do know that we as a community, a global community, must do what we can to stop such disasters. Vince Lombardi once said, "It is time for us to stand and cheer for the doer, the achiever, the one who recognizes a challenge and does something about it." I'd like to change that quote just a bit and say it is time for us to stand and not only cheer for the doer, because although there's not much cheering for those who do, there's far less following of those who do. So it is time for us to stand and follow the doer, the achiever, the one who recognizes a challenge and does something about it. Because if each of us decides to follow a doer at some point in our lives, then we in turn become doers and therefore become people to be followed. As you can imagine, if this type of scenario were to take place, the number of doers would grow exponentially. This exponential growth would surely lead to the reduction, if not elimination, of such scenarios as I mentioned before. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone strip themselves of all worldly possessions and run off and join the Peace Corps. See, Vince Lombardi also said, "None of us are born equal, but rather unequal. Some of us are born with more intelligence or are more competitive. But the talented are no more responsible for their birthright than are the underprivileged. So the measure of a man should be by what he does. Each person should give based upon what they are able. Some may not be able to give money, but may be able to donate time. Others may not have the ability to write a book that leads to world peace, but may be able to participate in a church play that promotes peace." So, like I said before, I'm not asking everyone to run out and join the Peace Corps, but rather keep your eyes open and your heads up, looking for an opportunity to use your abilities in a positive way. It is my hope that each of us will do this, and eventually we will become not just a community, county, state, nation, or even continent of doers, but rather a world of doers, where everybody is continually giving whatever they can to help others. In closing, I'd like to pose a challenge. As we walk away from Grand Canyon High School to pursue educations, riches, families, and lives of our own, let us not forget those emaciated children crawling towards sustenance, and always be aware of the opportunities that present themselves every day to become involved. This class of 2006 has already shown that we are doers in the community. Let us now go our separate ways and become doers in each of our respective lives, giving the rest of the world someone to follow. Thank you.